Hare Krishna! Happy Kartik month to everyone, and welcome to Krishna Book Class, Part 3, Class number 7. Last time we read chapters 68, 69, and 70, and we're going to pick up on 71. Krishna has a very important decision to make on what to do in what order. He just asked his friend Uddhava to decide for him. But first we'll have some kirtan.
Short kirtan.
Short kirtan. Hare Krishna.
Alright, good evening, sweet souls. It's always such a treat to be here with you. We'll start with a clearing breath and then our opening prayers. Inhale, sip the breath in, sip it in, sip it in. Exhale, clear away the day. We open our eye and offer our gratitude here. Deep breath in.
Om Jnana-timirandhasya Jnananjana-shrakaya Chakshusmiritam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Vancha kalpatarupyascha kripa sindhubhyeva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasari Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. Welcome to class 7. How is everyone? Good. We had a number of really nice reflections in the chat. If anyone would like to start us off with a little bit of reflecting their reflection or anyone else's reflection that stood out, what they heard the last week that inspired them, that stuck out in their mind, please go ahead.
I'll go.
If you
Yay.
can.
Go ahead.
Oh.
Mary, then Allison.
Okay. I thought what was really cool is the fact that Krishna said in the Narada, "What can I do for you?" And it was like, here's God, offering himself, humbling himself, sending, just being so there for him and there for us. That was really cool.
Yeah. He's so attentive to his service to Srinarda. Thank you, Allison. It's like you're lagging a little bit. Allison, can you hear us? If so, you're free to.
I'm just having technical, but I heard a little bit about what Mary said about the humility, which I really appreciated in chapter 69. But I just felt like the whole chapter was so welcoming. And I think Nancy mentioned something about it in the last video, and just being able to see every household, like Krishna's in every house and can be in any house, no matter what type of situation it is. We just have to welcome divinity in. And I just loved seeing every single different household, and seeing him there just really felt really good. And for my practice too, like I could be in my house and it's okay. And it's going to be different than Nancy's. And
yeah, well, the really eye-opening news, amazing news is that he already is. He's in your heart. He's in everybody's heart, and he always has been. So he's making his home there. And so, yeah, there's this beautiful way in which Krishna's so accommodating and so diverse and uniquely manifesting for all the different devotees with their unique qualities and relationships with them. So it's like, oh, good. There's room for me too.
Yeah, it's open to everyone. You just have to call out for it.
Yeah. Thank you.
I was just going to say to add that I really love that he loves our individuality as well.
Yeah.
That I don't have to be like Allison or Pam or Shakti. I just be myself, and Krishna will reciprocate with that. It's really lovely. Yeah.
I mean, in terms of like philosophy, not only do you not have to be, you can't. You can't be them, and they can't be you. In the ultimate issue, everyone is. That's why the reality is the way it is. Otherwise, if we're all completely one in exactly the same way, what need would there be for all this diversity? The evidence of like Krishna's, as Prabhupada put it, said variety is the spice of life, right? And Krishna is the supreme enjoyer. So he's manifested all this diversity because he likes it that way. So he wants you to be you. It's really I resonate with what you're saying too. It's very comforting. It's very like grounding. So good. Yeah.
I think you spoke about that as being spiritually delicious. Like that it was like when we're each perfectly ourselves.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of extends the metaphor. Variety is the spice of life. We want something to be delicious.
Yeah.
Yeah. Otherwise, it's very, imagine sitting down to a feast and every prep is exactly the same. What a nightmare. What is that? Yeah. Yeah, Eileen.
A couple weeks ago when we were at Super Soul, there was like a very deep dive into the Gunas.
Modes of nature.
And I really appreciated, when we went through chapter 70. If you want like a textbook of what a sattvic lifestyle looks like, and being in that mode of goodness, it's
Right.
like Krishna modeled for us the type of behavior that would equate to what that sattvic lifestyle looks like.
Yeah, waking up early, engaging in some devotional practice. Prabhupada took pains to point out that Krishna's worshiping himself is like not a license for us to worship ourselves. It's because he's God. So, aiming ourselves at the Supreme early in the morning, and like he was very careful to give in charity and like perform his duties as a husband and father very carefully, and respect the forefathers and his ancestors, and give food away and different things. And yeah, it's like this very regulated mode of goodness lifestyle he's living.
And it kind of tied into from your Srimad Bhagavatam class this week we talked a little bit about timeliness and cleanliness. And so again, that was also very much exhibited, like he had very specific times to do things. He performed rituals to clean himself. Like he kind of followed that. So it was nice to have these parallels between like the Gita, the Bhagavatam, and now like this obviously is part of the Bhagavatam, but in the Krishna book,
Right.
having it all kind of meld together.
Yeah, as Krishna says in the 3rd chapter of Bhagavad Gita, I don't have any duty to perform, nor is anything obliged of me. But just to set an example, I also act as if, I act according to higher principles. Because yad yad acharati shastas tat tat ebe tarojanaha. Whatever a great person performs, the common person follows. There's so much, as St. Francis of Assisi said, you should preach always, and sometimes you can even use words. Because who you are and how you conduct yourself is the most powerful influencing ability we have. It's the most powerful preaching we have, and Krishna is doing that. And he's actually giving us permission to find our own power in that too. It's like just by living by higher principles, you don't have to open your mouth. There's no Bhagavad Gitas or Bibles to thump. It's just like you can just be that change, and people are automatically influenced by that. So Krishna knows that. That's how people are. We're very influenced. So he's setting an example. He doesn't have any duty. What does Krishna have to do? Krishna doesn't have to wash his hands after he eats. This is the Supreme, but he's very carefully washing his hands and doing all these little things, and because for me and you, it's like helpful. The other example Prabhupada used is when Lord Chaitanya comes, he's teaching us how to practice bhakti, just like a teacher will very carefully, like on the board, write, this is the letter A, really slowly. And someone could say, well, they're just learning how to write. Look how they're like writing. They're a student, but that's their leela. That's their pastime as a teacher, to show us how to write the letter A. Because without someone holding you by the hand, like, it looks like this, you don't actually learn how to write. So Lord Chaitanya is doing that too. It's like, this is how it looks like to be a devotee in the world. This is what kirtan is. This is what it is to worship a deity. This is japa. This is offering your food. He's like, he doesn't have to learn that. He's showing it to us as if he's learning it for the first time by his leela. So Krishna's he's always doing things for his own enjoyment. There's also a way in which there's a level of him like kind of showing us, especially in his public leelas where he's in his householder life, he's showing us, hey, it's like this. This is what you can do and be happy in the world. Yeah. All right. Let's jump into chapter 71, shall we?
Yeah.
Okay. Krishna, 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 Hey. Krishna, 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 Hey. Krishna, 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 Rakshamam. Krishna, 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 Pahimam. Rama Raghava, Rama Raghava, Rama Raghava, Rakshamam. Krishna Keshava, Krishna Keshava, Krishna Keshava, Pahimam. Jai Krishna Bhakti Jai, chapter 71. Lord Krishna in Indraprastha city. In the presence of the great sage Narada and all the other associates of Lord Krishna, Uddhava considered the situation and then spoke as follows. My dear Lord, first of all, let me say that the great sage Narada Muni has requested you to go to Hastinapura to satisfy King Yudhishthira, your cousin, who's making arrangements to perform the great sacrifice known as Rajasuya. I think, therefore, that your lordship should immediately go there to help the king in this great venture. However, although to accept the invitation offered by the sage Narada as primary is quite appropriate, at the same time, my lord, it's your duty to give protection to the surrendered souls. Both purposes can be served if you understand the whole situation. Unless we are victorious over all the kings, no one can perform this Rajasuya sacrifice. In other words, it is to be understood that King Yudhishthira cannot perform this great sacrifice without gaining victory over the belligerent King Jarasandha. Remember, the other issue besides Yudhishthira having asked Krishna for his presence for this great sacrifice was there's Jarasandha, this king who was defeated by Krishna like 17 times, and he hasn't given up. And what that means is he's actually kidnapped several other kings, and they're pious and they're calling to Krishna for protection. So Krishna's quandary was like, what do I do first? So Uddhava was saying, therefore, to execute both purposes, we have to first kill Jarasandha. I think that if we can somehow or other gain victory over Jarasandha, all our purposes will be served. The imprisoned kings will be released, and with great pleasure, we shall enjoy the spread of your transcendental fame for having saved the innocent kings whom Jarasandha imprisoned. But Jarasandha is not an ordinary man. He's proved a stumbling block even to great warriors, because his bodily strength is equal to the strength of 10,000 elephants. If there's anyone who can conquer this king, he's none other than Bhima Sena, also known as Bhima, because he also possesses the strength of 10,000 elephants. The best thing would be for Bhima to fight him alone. Then there'd be no unnecessary killing of many soldiers. In fact, Jarasandha will be very difficult to conquer when he stands with his Akshauhini divisions of soldiers. We therefore may adopt a policy more favorable to the situation. We know King Jarasandha is very much devoted to the Brahmins and very charitably disposed to them. He never refuses any request from a Brahmin. I think therefore Bhimasena should approach Jarasandha in the dress of a Brahmin, beg charity from him, and then personally engage in fighting him. And to assure Bhima's victory, I think your lordship should accompany him. If the fighting takes place in your presence, I'm sure Bhima will emerge victorious. For your presence makes everything impossible possible. Indeed, Lord Brahma creates this universe, and Lord Shiva destroys it simply through your influence. Actually, you create and destroy the entire cosmic manifestation. Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva are only the superficially visible causes. Creation and destruction are actually performed by the invisible time factor, which is your impersonal representation. Everything is under the control of this time factor. If your invisible time factor can perform such wonderful acts through Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva, will not your personal presence help Bhima conquer Jarasandha? My dear Lord, when Jarasandha is killed, the queens of all the imprisoned kings will be so joyful at their husbands as being released by your mercy that they will all sing your glories, being as pleased as the gopis were when released from the hands of Shankachuta. Shankachuta was the demon who heard Krishna and Balaram singing with the gopis and became kind of like puffed up and thought that, oh, this is nice, I should have this. I should have all these ladies for myself, and tried to like herd them away. And Balaram stayed and protected the gopis while Krishna ran after him and punched him back of the head from behind and got that jewel from him and then gave it to Balaram and said, you hold on to it, because he didn't want to give it to any one gopi because he didn't want all the other ones to get jealous. So he's kind of like representative of lust, the Shankachuta demon. So Buddha was saying the queens of these kings will be as happy as the gopis were when you killed that demon. All the great sages, the king of the elephants, Gajendra, the goddess of fortune, Sita, and even your father and mother were all delivered by your causeless mercy. We also have thus been delivered, and we always sing the transcendental glories of your activities. Therefore, I think if the killing of Jarasandha is undertaken first, it will automatically solve many other problems. As for the Rajasuya sacrifice, it will be held either because of the pious activities of the imprisoned kings or the impious activities of Jarasandha. My lord, it appears that you are to personally go to Hastinapura to conquer demoniac kings like Jarasandha and Shishupala, to release the pious imprisoned kings, and also perform the great Rajasuya sacrifice. Considering all these points, I think you should immediately proceed to Hastinapura. This advice of Uddhava's was appreciated by all who were present. Everyone considered that Lord Krishna going to Hastinapura would be beneficial from all points of view. The great sage Narada, the elder personalities of the Yadu dynasty, and Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead himself, all supported the statement of Uddhava. Lord Krishna then took permission from his father, Vasudeva, and grandfather, Ugrasena, and he immediately ordered his servants Dwarka and Jaitra to arrange for travel to Hastinapura. When everything was prepared, Lord Krishna especially bid farewell to Lord Balaram and the king of the Yadus, Ugrasena, and after dispatching his queens along with their children and sending their necessary luggage aboard, he mounted his chariot which bore the flag marked with the symbol of Garuda. Before starting the procession, Krishna satisfied the great sage Narada by offering him different kinds of articles of worship. Naradaji wanted to fall at the lotus feet of Krishna, but because the Lord was playing the part of a human being, he simply offered his respects within his mind, and fixing the transcendental form of the Lord within his heart, he left the assembly house by the airways. Usually the sage Narada does not walk on the surface of the globe, but travels in outer space. After the departure of Narada, Lord Krishna addressed the messenger who had come from the imprisoned kings and told him that they should not be worried, for he would very soon arrange to kill the king of Magadha, Jarasandha. Thus he wished good fortune to all the imprisoned kings and the messenger. After receiving this assurance from Lord Krishna, the messenger returned to the imprisoned kings and informed them of the happy news of the Lord's forthcoming visit. All the kings were joyful at the news and began to wait very anxiously for the Lord's arrival. The chariot of Lord Krishna started for Hastinapura, accompanied by many other chariots, along with elephants, cavalry, infantry, and similar royal paraphernalia. Bugles, drums, trumpets, conch shells, and horns all produced a loud, auspicious sound, which vibrated in all directions. The 16,000 queens, headed by the goddess of fortune, Rukmini Devi, the ideal wife of Lord Krishna, and accompanied by their respective sons, all followed behind Lord Krishna. They were dressed in costly garments decorated with ornaments, and their bodies were smeared with sandalwood pulp and garlanded with fragrant flowers. Riding on palanquins nicely decorated with silks, flags, and golden lace, they followed their exalted husband, Lord Krishna. The infantry soldiers carried shields, swords, and lances in their hands, and acted as royal bodyguards to the queen. In the rear of the procession were the wives and children of all the other followers, and there were many society girls also following. Many beasts of burden like bulls, buffaloes, mules, and asses carried the camps, bedding, and carpets, and the women who followed were seated in separate palanquins on the backs of camels. This panoramic procession was accompanied by the shouts of the people and was full with the display of differently colored flags, umbrellas, and whisks, and different varieties of weapons, dress, ornaments, helmets, and armaments. Shining in the sun, the procession appeared just like an ocean with high waves and sharks. It's quite the scene. In this way, the procession of Lord Krishna's party advanced toward Hastinapura, the New Delhi, and gradually passed through the kingdoms of Anarta, Gujarat province, Salvira, Surat, the great desert of Rajasthan, and then Kurukshetra. Between those kingdoms were many mountains, rivers, towns, villages, pasturing grounds, and mining fields. The procession passed through all these places in its advance. On his way to Hastinapur, the Lord crossed two big rivers, the Drishadvati and the Sarasvati. Then he crossed the provinces of Panchala and Matsya. In this way, he ultimately arrived at Hastinapura or Indraprastha. The audience of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is not at all commonplace. Therefore, when King Yudhishthira heard the Lord Krishna had arrived in his capital city, he became so joyful that all his bodily hairs stood on end in great ecstasy. And he immediately came out of the city to properly receive the Lord. He ordered the musical vibration of different instruments and songs, and the learned Brahmins of the city began to chant the hymns of the Vedas very loudly. Lord Krishna is known as Rishikesh, the master of the senses, and King Yudhishthira went forward to receive him exactly as the senses meet the consciousness of life. King Yudhishthira was the elder cousin of Krishna. Naturally, he had great affection for the Lord, and as soon as he saw him, his heart became filled with great love and affection. He had not seen the Lord for many days, and therefore he thought himself most fortunate to see the Lord present before him. The king therefore embraced Lord Krishna again and again in great affection. The eternal form of Krishna is the everlasting residence of the goddess of fortune. As soon as King Yudhishthira embraced him, he became free from all contamination of material existence. He immediately felt transcendental bliss and merged in an ocean of happiness. There were tears in his eyes, and his body shook in ecstasy. He completely forgot he was living in this material world. After this, Bhimasena, the second brother of the Pandavas, smiled and embraced Lord Krishna, thinking of him as his own maternal cousin, and thus he also merged in great ecstasy. Bhima was so filled with ecstasy that for the time being he forgot his material existence. Then Lord Sri Krishna himself embraced the other three Pandavas, Arjuna, Nakula, and Sahadeva. The eyes of all three brothers were inundated with tears, and Arjuna embraced Krishna again and again because they were intimate friends. The two younger Pandava brothers, after being embraced by Lord Krishna, fell down at his lotus feet to offer their respects. Lord Krishna thereafter offered his obeisances to the Brahmins present, as well as to the elder members of the Kuru dynasty, like Bhishma, Drona, and Dhritarashtra. There are many kings of different provinces, such as Kuru, Srinjaya, and Kaikaya, and Lord Krishna duly reciprocated greetings and respects with them. The professional reciters like the Suttas, Magathas, and Vandis, accompanied by the Brahmanas, offered their respectful prayers to the Lord. Performing artists like the Gandharvas, as well as the royal jokers, began to play their Pandava drums, conch shells, kettle drums, veenas, mridangas, and bugles, and they exhibited their dancing art to please the Lord. Thus the all-famous Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Krishna, entered the great city of Hastinapura, which was opulent in every respect. While Lord Krishna was entering the city, all the people talked amongst themselves about the glories of the Lord, praising his transcendental name, qualities, form, and so on. The roads, streets, and lanes of Hastinapur were all sprinkled with fragrant water through the trunks of intoxicated elephants. In different places of the city, there were different colored festoons and flags decorating the houses and streets. At important crossroads, there were gates with golden decorations, and at the two sides of the gates, there were golden water jugs. These beautiful decorations glorified the opulence of the city. Participating in this great ceremony, all the citizens gathered here and there, dressed in colorful new clothing and decorated with ornaments, flower garlands, and fragrant scents. The houses were all illuminated by hundreds and thousands of lamps placed in different corners with cornices, walls, columns, bases, and architraves. And from far away, the rays of the lamps appeared to be celebrating the festival of Deepavali, also known as Diwali, a particular festival observed on the New Year's Day of the Hindu calendar. That was 2 days ago. Yesterday, yeah. Within the walls of the houses, fragrant incense was burning and smoke rose through the windows, making the entire atmosphere very pleasing. On the top of every house, flags were flapping, and the golden water pots kept on the roofs shone brilliantly. Lord Krishna thus entered the city of the Pandavas, enjoyed the beautiful atmosphere, and slowly proceeded ahead. When the young girls in every house heard that Lord Krishna, the only object worth seeing, was passing on the road, they were very eager to see this all-famous personality. Their hair loosened, and their tightened saris became slack, due to their hastily rushing to see him. They gave up their household engagements, and those who were lying in bed with their husbands immediately left them, and came directly down onto the street to see Lord Krishna. The procession of elephants, horses, chariots, and infantry was very crowded. Some of the girls, being unable to see properly in the crowd, got up on the roofs of the houses. Pleased to see Lord Krishna passing with his thousands of queens, they showered flowers on the procession, embraced Lord Krishna within their minds, and gave him a hearty reception. When they saw him in the midst of his many queens, like the full moon situated amidst many luminaries, they began to talk amongst themselves. One girl said to another, "My dear friend, it is very difficult to guess what kind of pious activities these queens have performed, for they are always enjoying the smiling face and loving glances of Krishna." While Krishna was thus passing on the road, at intervals, some of the citizens, who were all rich, respectable, and freed from sinful activities, presented auspicious articles to the Lord, just to offer him a reception to the city. When Lord Krishna entered the palace, all the ladies there were overwhelmed with affection just upon seeing him. They immediately received Lord Krishna with glittering eyes, expressing the love and affection for him. And Lord Krishna smiled and accepted their feelings and gestures of reception. When Kunti, the mother of the Pandavas, saw her nephew, Lord Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, she was overpowered by love and affection. She at once got up from her bedstead and appeared before him with her daughter-in-law, Draupadi. And in maternal love and affection, she embraced him. As Maharaj Yudhishthira brought Krishna within the palace, the king became so confused in his jubilation that he practically forgot what he was to do at that time to receive Krishna and worship him properly. Lord Krishna delightfully offered his respects and obeisances to Kunti and other elderly ladies of the palace. His younger sister, Subhadra, was also standing there with Draupadi, and both offered their respectful obeisances unto the lotus feet of the Lord. At the indication of her mother-in-law, Draupadi brought clothing, ornaments, and garlands along, and with his paraphernalia, they received the queens Rukmini, Satyabhama, Bhadra, Jambavati, Kalandi, Mitravinda, Lakshmana, and the devoted Satya. These principal queens of Lord Krishna were first received, and then the other queens were also offered a proper reception. King Yudhishthira arranged for Krishna's rest and saw to it that all who came along with him, namely his queens, soldiers, ministers, and secretaries, were comfortably situated. He had arranged that they would experience a new feature of reception every day while staying as guests of the Pandavas. It was during this time that Lord Sri Krishna, with the help of Arjuna, allowed the fire god Agni to devour the Khandava forest for his satisfaction. Agni is where the word ignition comes from. Ignite. During the forest fire, Krishna saved the demon Mayasura, who was hiding in the forest. Upon being saved, Mayasura felt obliged to the Pandavas and Lord Krishna, and he constructed a wonderful assembly house within the city of Hastinapura. To please King Yudhishthira, Lord Krishna remained in the city of Hastinapura for several months. During his stay, he enjoyed strolling here and there. He used to drive on chariots with Arjuna, and many warriors and soldiers used to follow them. Shri Krishna Bhakti Jai. All right, any reflections?
I loved, if you're holding the actual book, page 547, that it was the eternal form of Lord Krishna is the everlasting residence of the goddess of fortune.
Yeah.
Right, Radharani. Right, so it's like for Lakshmi, but you know,
It was an expansion of Radharani.
Radharani.
Yeah.
So the eternal form of Krishna is the everlasting residence, right, of the supreme goddess.
Yeah, one of the marks of Vishnu's body that distinguishes it even from his devotees, because in the Vishnu lokas, the certain spiritual planets, you'll have four-armed forms of Vishnu, and his devotees will also have four-armed forms, but there is a difference. There are some differences. One of them is Krishna has a mark on his chest called the Srivatsa, which signifies the resting place of the goddess of fortune, who always lives on his heart. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and the context too is because Krishna is the resting place of the goddess of fortune. When he embraced, like like it was Yudhishthira,
Yeah.
then Yudhishthira was completely purified and sanctified and happy, to say the least.
And one other thing it had me thinking after you read that of how in this time of Kartik, right, a way that we also can access, well, not just Kartik, but I heard actually in a lecture by Rukmini Devi, she was speaking about how to access Krishna or to send our prayers and our vows to Krishna was actually through Radharani, right? And as she's his dearmost devotee, and yet her residence is in the eternal form of Krishna, right? So what better way to, and she will say like, oh, please accept them, Krishna,
Yeah.
they're better than me, and
Yeah, she's the best devotee, and if we can be vetted by her, then it's the greatest gift, actually. In fact, I heard a beautiful class by His Grace Bhattahari Prabhu on the occasion of Radhashtami, and he began the class by asking the question, how did he put it? I think he just asked, what's more important than Krishna? And somebody raised their hand and said, love of Krishna. He said, yes, this is correct. The only thing more important than Krishna is love of Krishna. So she's that repository of perfect love for Krishna. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Great. Any more reflections before we jump into chapter 72, Eileen?
Kind of driving off of what Kishori just said, and I don't know if it was the same same class. This one was the welcoming the guest, our dearmost friend. She did this with the urban deity, and I thought it was really cool to look at how the city welcomed Krishna as their guest with all the pomp and all the beauty and pulling out every single stop they possibly could. Yeah. And like how when we chant, we should approach chanting with that mood of celebration and giving him all the opulence, all the attention, all of our heart, all of the trappings of glory. And so it's like an interesting thought of like, okay, like we could be in this beautiful parade, but also we can imbibe that mood so that when we approach Krishna and have this encounter with him, that we're fully invested in like pulling out all the stops for him.
Yeah.
And welcoming as a guest in our heart.
Yeah, one analogy of our acharyas of use is that we're actually like Krishna, we're trying to prepare a sitting place for him in our heart. And so we're cleansing it like a throne and cleansing that temple of our heart to make it free from the clutter and detritus and debris of, lust, anger, greed, bewilderment, illusion, those kinds of useless things, and then softening the heart and making it more and more receptive for his pleasure. It's like this actual just cultivation. Like when you cultivate land, you take out the stones, you till the earth, you make it nice, you kind of like water it properly, and then beautiful things can grow. So this is this process of like sweetening and purifying the heart, that Krishna, you please make your seat here, be comfortable and happy, reside here. Yeah, it's actually like a very deep thing. And in the chat, what amazing time to be reading this chapter, Krishna Miracle. Right, on Diwali, right? It's amazing. There it is.
Yeah.
On that note, let's continue and see what miracles the next chapter has for us. Chapter 72, the liberation of King Jarasandha. In the great assembly of respective citizens, friends, relatives, Brahmins, sages, Kshatriyas, and Vaishyas, in the presence of all, including his brothers, King Yudhishthira directly addressed Lord Krishna as follows. My dear Lord Krishna, the sacrifice known as Rajasuya Yagya is to be performed by the emperor and is considered the king of all sacrifices. By performing this sacrifice, I wish to satisfy all the demigods, who are your empowered representatives. And I wish that you will kindly help me in this great venture so that it may be successfully executed. As far as the Pandavas are concerned, we have nothing to ask from the demigods. We are personally fully satisfied to be your devotees. As you say in Bhagavad Gita, persons bewildered by material desires worship the demigods. But my purpose is different. I want to perform this Rajasuya sacrifice and invite the demigods to show that they have no power independent of you, that they are all your servants, and you are the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Foolish persons with the poor fund of knowledge consider your lordship an ordinary human being. Sometimes they try to find fault in you, and sometimes they defame you. Therefore, I wish to perform this Rajasuya Yagya. I wish to invite all the demigods, beginning from Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva, and other exalted chiefs of the heavenly planets. And in that great assembly of demigods from all parts of the universe, I want to substantiate that you are the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and that everyone is your servant. My dear Lord, those who are constantly in Krishna consciousness and who think of your lotus feet or your shoes are certainly freed from all contamination of material life. Such persons who engage in your service in full Krishna consciousness, who meditate upon you only and offer prayers unto you, are purified souls. Being constantly engaged in Krishna conscious service, they are freed from the cycle of repeated birth and death. Or even if they do not want to be freed from this material cycle, but desire to enjoy material opulences, their desires are also fulfilled by their Krishna conscious activities. In fact, those who are pure devotees of your lotus feet have no desire for material opulences. As far as we are concerned, we are fully surrendered unto your lotus feet, and by your grace we are so fortunate as to see you personally. Therefore, naturally, we have no desire for material opulences. The verdict of the Vedic wisdom is you are the Supreme Personality of Godhead. I want to establish this fact, and also to show the world the difference between accepting you as the Supreme Personality of Godhead and accepting you as an ordinary, powerful, historical person. I wish to show the world that one can attain the highest perfection of life simply by taking shelter at your lotus feet, exactly as one can satisfy the branches, twigs, leaves, and flowers of an entire tree simply by watering the root. If one takes the Krishna consciousness, his life becomes fulfilled, both materially and spiritually. This does not mean that you are partial to the Krishna conscious person and indifferent to the non-Krishna conscious person. You're equal to everyone. That's your declaration. You cannot be partial to one and not interested in others, for you sit in everyone's heart as the supersoul and give everyone the respective results of their fruitive activities. You give every living entity the chance to enjoy this material world as they desire. As the supersoul, you sit in the body with the living entity, giving him the results of his own actions as well as opportunities to turn toward your devotional service. You openly declare that one should surrender unto you, giving up all of their engagements, and you will take charge of them, giving them relief from the reactions of all sins. Still, the living entity remains attached to material activities and suffers or enjoys the reactions without your interference. You are like the desire tree in the heavenly planets, which awards benedictions according to one's desires. Everyone is free to achieve the highest perfection, but if one does not so desire, then your awarding of lesser benedictions is not due to partiality. On hearing this statement, Lord Krishna replied as follows: My dear King Yudhishthira, O killer of enemies, O ideal justice personified, I completely support your decision to perform the Rajasuya sacrifice. After you perform this great sacrifice, your good name will remain well established forever in the history of human civilization. My dear king, I may inform you that all the great sages, your forefathers, the demigods, and your relatives and friends, including me, desire that you perform this sacrifice, and I think it will satisfy every living entity. But I request that you first conquer all the kings of the world, and collect all the requisite paraphernalia for executing this great sacrifice. My dear King Yudhishthir, your 4 brothers are direct representatives of important demigods like Vayu and Indra. Prabhupada comments, it is said that Bhima was born of the demigod Vayu, Arjuna was born of demigod Indra, whereas King Yudhishthir himself was born of the demigod Yamaraj. As such, your brothers are great heroes, and you are the most pious and self-controlled king and are therefore known as Dharmaraj. All of you are so qualified in devotional service to me that I have automatically been conquered by you. Lord Krishna told King Yudhishthira that he is conquered by the love of one who has conquered his senses. One who has not conquered his senses cannot conquer the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This is the secret of devotional service. To conquer the senses means to engage them constantly in the service of the Lord. The specific qualification of all the Pandava brothers was that they always engaged their senses in the Lord's service. The one who thus engages their senses becomes purified, and with purified senses, the devotee can actually render transcendental loving service to the Lord and conquer him. Lord Krishna continued, there is no one in the 3 worlds of the universe, including the powerful demigods, who could surpass my devotees in any of the 6 opulences: wealth, strength, reputation, beauty, knowledge, and renunciation. Therefore, if you want to conquer the worldly kings, there is no possibility of their emerging victorious. When Lord Krishna thus encouraged King Yudhishthira, the king's face brightened like a blossoming flower because of transcendental happiness, and thus he ordered his younger brothers to conquer all the worldly kings in all directions. Lord Krishna empowered the Pandavas to execute his great mission of chastising the infidel miscreants of the world and giving protection to his faithful devotees. In his Vishnu form, the Lord carries 4 weapons in his 4 hands: a lotus flower, a conch shell in 2 hands, and the other 2 hands a club and a disc. The club and disc are meant for the infidel miscreants and demons, and the lotus flower and conch shell are for the devotees. But because the Lord is the Supreme Absolute, the result of all his weapons is one and the same. With the club and the disc, he chastises the miscreants so that they may come to their senses and know that they are not all in all, for above them there is the Supreme Lord. And by bugling with the conch shell and offering blessings with the lotus flower, he always assures the devotees that no one can vanquish them, even in the greatest calamity. King Yudhishthira, being thus assured by the indication of Lord Krishna, ordered his youngest brother, Sahadev, accompanied by soldiers of the Srinjaya tribe, to conquer the southern countries. Similarly, he ordered Nakula, accompanied by soldiers of Matsya Desha, to conquer the kings of the western side. He sent Arjuna, accompanied by the soldiers of Kekaya Desha, to conquer the kings of the northern side, and he ordered Bhima, accompanied by the soldiers of Madra Desha, Madras, to conquer the kings on the eastern side. It may be noted that by dispatching his younger brothers to conquer in different directions, King Yudhishthira did not actually intend that they declare war upon the kings. Actually, the brothers started for different directions to inform their respective kings about King Yudhishthira's intention to perform the Rajasuya sacrifice. The kings were thus informed that they were required to pay taxes for the execution of the sacrifice. This payment of taxes to Emperor Yudhishthira meant that the king accepted subjugation before him. In case of a king's refusal to act accordingly, there was certainly a fight. Thus, by their influence and strength, the brothers conquered all the kings in different directions, and they were able to bring in sufficient taxes and presentations which they brought before King Yudhishthira. King Yudhishthira was very anxious, however, when he heard that King Jarasandha of Magadha did not accept his sovereignty. Seeing King Yudhishthira's anxiety, Lord Krishna informed him of the plan explained by Uddhava for conquering King Jarasandha. Bhima, Arjuna, and Krishna then started together for Girivraja, the capital city of Jarasandha, dressing themselves in the garb of Brahmins. This was the plan devised by Uddhava before Lord Krishna started for Hastinapur, and now it was given practical application. King Jarasandha was a very dutiful householder, and he had great respect for the Brahmins. He was a great fighter, a Kshatriya king, but he was never neglectful of Vedic injunctions. According to the Vedic injunctions, the Brahmins are considered to be the spiritual masters of all other castes. Lord Krishna, Arjuna, and Bhima were actually Kshatriyas, but they dressed themselves as Brahmins, and at the time when King Jarasandha was to give charity to the Brahmins and receive them as guests, they approached him. Sneaky. It's always funny because you imagine like Arjuna, Bhima, these are like powerfully built gentlemen. These are not little sages used to like austerities and simple living.
Yeah.
They're ripped, but they're putting on a show, coming as Brahmins. It's kind of an interesting scene.
Is it like when the Pandavas were like in disguise? They looked different.
Yeah.
So they don't actually look different. They're just wearing like.
I don't think there was like any illusory kind of magic or anything. I don't know. We'll see. I think there's more. It actually comes up. Lord Krishna, in the dress of a Brahmin, said to the king, "We wish all glories to your majesty. We three guests at your royal palace have come from a great distance to ask you for charity. We hope you will kindly bestow upon us whatever we ask from you." Because of their simple lives, Brahmins, and dedication to spiritual practice, they are allowed to ask and receive in charity, something only Brahmins can do, because Brahmins don't actually work. They give their services freely for any donation, and as such, they can receive donations at any time. And if they receive excess, it's also their duty to pass it onward. They don't keep more than they need. So when a Brahmin asks, the culture is that they get whatever they need, We know about your good qualities. A person who's tolerant is always prepared to tolerate everything, even though distressful. Just as a criminal can perform the most abominable acts, a greatly charitable person like you can give anything and everything for which he's asked. For a great personality like you, there is no distinction between relatives and outsiders. A famous man lives forever, even after his death. Therefore, any person who is completely fit and able to execute acts which will perpetuate his good name and fame, and yet does not do so, becomes abominable in the eyes of great persons. Such a person cannot be condemned enough, and his refusal to give charity is lamentable throughout his whole life. Yeah, stinginess is really like not good for kshatriyas, especially. Like, you're supposed to give charitably. Your Majesty must have heard the glorious names of charitable personalities such as Harishchandra, Rantideva, and Mudgala, who used to live only on grains picked from the paddy field, and the great Maharaj Shibi, who saved the life of a pigeon by supplying flesh from his own body. These great personalities have attained immortal fame simply by sacrificing the perishable body. Lord Krishna, in the garb of a Brahmin, thus convinced Jarasandha that fame is imperishable, but the body is perishable. If one can attain imperishable name and fame by sacrificing his perishable body, he becomes a very respectable figure in the history of human civilization. While Lord Krishna was speaking in the garb of a Brahmin along with Arjuna and Bhima, Jarasandha marked that the three of them did not appear to be actual Brahmins. There were signs in their bodies by which Jarasandha could understand that they were Kshatriyas. Their shoulders were marked with impressions due to carrying bows. They had beautiful bodily structure, and their voices were grave and commanding.
They were jacked.
Kshatriyas are like,
Yeah.
They're fighting and working out and wrestling with each other, and there's a certain kind of lifestyle. So he's like, I think you're really Brahmins. Thus, he definitely concluded that they were not Brahmins but Kshatriyas. He also thought that he had seen them somewhere before. But although these three persons were Kshatriyas, they had come to his door begging alms like Brahmins. Therefore, he decided he would fulfill their desires in spite of their being Kshatriyas, because they'd already diminished their position by appearing before him as beggars. Under the circumstances, he thought, I am prepared to give them anything. Even if they ask for my body, I shall not hesitate to offer it to them.
Wow.
In this regard, he began to think of Bali Maharaj. Lord Vishnu, in the dress of a Brahmin, appeared as a beggar before Bali and snatched away all his opulence and his kingdom. He did this for the benefit of Indra, who, having been defeated by Bali Maharaj, was bereft of his kingdom. Although Bali Maharaj was cheated, his reputation as a great devotee, able to give anything and everything in charity, is still glorified throughout the three worlds. Bali Maharaj could guess that the Brahmin was Lord Vishnu himself, and had come to him just to take away his opulent kingdom on behalf of Indra. Bali's spiritual master and family priest, Shukracharya, repeatedly warned him about this, yet Bali did not hesitate to give in charity whatever the Brahmin wanted, and at last he gave up everything to that Brahmin. It is my strong determination, thought Jarasandha, that if I can achieve immortal reputation by sacrificing this perishable body, I must act for that purpose. The life of a Kshatriya who does not live for the benefit of the Brahmins is certainly condemned. Actually, King Jarasandha was very liberal in giving charity to Brahmins, and thus he informed Lord Krishna, Bhima, and Arjuna, my dear Brahmins, you may ask for me whatever you like. If you so desire, you may take my head also. I am prepared to give it. After this, Lord Krishna addressed Jarasandha as follows. My dear king, please note that we are not actually Brahmins, nor have we come to ask for food or grain. We are all Kshatriyas, and we've come to beg a duel with you. We hope that you will agree to this proposal. You may note that here is the second son of King Pandu, Bhimasena, and the third son of Pandu, Arjuna. As for myself, you may know that I am your old enemy, Krishna, the cousin of the Pandavas, who we fought with 18 times and lost. When Lord Krishna disclosed their disguise, Jarasandha laughed very loudly, and then in great anger and in a grave voice he exclaimed, You fools! If you want to fight with me, I immediately grant your request. But, Krishna, I know that you are a coward. I refuse to fight with you because you become very confused when you face me in fighting. Out of fear of me, you left your own city, Mathura, and now you have taken shelter within the sea. Therefore, I must refuse to fight with you. As far as Arjuna is concerned, I know he is younger than me and is not an equal fighter. I refuse to fight with him because he's not in any way an equal competitor. But as far as Bhimasena is concerned, I think he's a suitable competitor to fight with me. After speaking in this way, King Jarasandha immediately handed a very heavy club to Bhimasena. He himself took another, and all of them went outside to the city walls to fight. I challenge you to a duel. It's all very proper. It's like they'll walk out together. They'll have equal size clubs. He's making sure he's going to only fight Bhima. It's like you're not worthy of Krishna. Arjuna, you're too young. Bhima, it's an equal match. Bhima and King Jarasandha engaged themselves in fighting, and with their respective clubs, which were as strong as thunderbolts, they began to strike each other very severely, both of them being eager to fight. They are both expert fighters with clubs, and their techniques of striking each other were so beautiful that they appeared to be two dramatic artists dancing on a stage. This is where the choreography of action movies comes from. Lightsaber duels in Star Wars or The Matrix, gunfights. Here it is, two incredibly empowered Kshatriyas. They're so good, it looks like they're dramatic artists putting on a show. When the clubs of Jarasandha and Bhimasena loudly collided, the impact sounded like that of the big tusks of two fighting elephants, or like a thunderbolt in a flashing electrical storm. When two elephants fight together in a sugarcane field, each of them snatches a stick of sugarcane, holds it tightly in his tusk, and strikes the other. At that time, the sugarcane becomes smashed by such heavy striking. Similarly, when Bhimasena and Jarasandha were heavily striking each other with their clubs on different parts of their bodies, namely the shoulders, arms, collarbone, chest, thighs, waist, and legs, their clubs were torn to pieces. In this way, all the clubs used by Jarasandha and Bhima became ruined. And so the two enemies prepared to fight with their strong-fisted hands. Jarasandha and Bhimasena were very angry, and they began to smash each other with their fists. The striking of their fists sounded like the striking of iron bars, or like the sound of thunderbolts. And the two warriors appeared to be like two elephants fighting. Neither was able to defeat the other, however, for both were expert in fighting. They were of equal strength, and their fighting techniques were also equal. Neither Jarasandha nor Bhimasena became fatigued or defeated in the fighting, although they struck each other continuously. At the end of each day's fighting, they lived at night as friends in Jarasandha's palace, and the next day they fought again. In this way, they passed 27 days in fighting. Look how civilized it is. They finish, there's probably a bell or something. Like in the Battle of Kurukshetra, it was agreed upon that when the sun set, fighting would stop. And they all get together and have dinner, and they would even praise each other, that was a really good move you did. I appreciate that. Yeah. And then the next day, back to business. None of this sending out hired soldiers to fight for you while you lounge on a sofa somewhere, fighting like Kali Yuga kings. No, this is mano a mano. On the 28th day, Bhimasena told Krishna, My dear Krishna, I must frankly admit that I cannot conquer Jarasandha. Lord Krishna, however, knew the mystery of Jarasandha's birth. Jarasandha had been born in two different parts from two different mothers. When his father saw that the baby was useless, he threw the two parts into the forest. There they were later found by a witch named Jara, who was skilled in the black arts. She managed to join the two parts of the body from top to bottom. The baby. Knowing this, Lord Krishna therefore also knew how to kill him. He hinted to Bhimasena that since Jarasandha had been brought to life by the joining of the two parts of his body, he could be killed by the separation of these two parts. Thus Lord Krishna transferred his power into the body of Bhimasena and informed him of the device by which Jarasandha could be killed. Lord Krishna plucked a twig from a tree, took it in his hand, and bifurcated it, split it in two. In this way, he hinted to Bhimasena how Jarasandha could be killed. Lord Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is omnipotent. And if he wants to kill someone, no one can save that person. Similarly, if he wants to save someone, no one can kill him. Informed by the hints of Lord Krishna, Bhimasena immediately took hold of Jarasandha's legs and threw him to the ground. When Jarasandha fell, Bhimasena immediately pressed one of Jarasandha's legs to the ground and took hold of the other with his two hands. Catching Jarasandha in this way, he tore his body in two from the anus up to the head. Ooh. As an elephant breaks the branches of a tree in two, Bhimasena separated the body of Jarasandha. The audience standing nearby saw that Jarasandha's body was now divided into two halves, so that each half had one leg, one thigh, one testicle, half a backbone, half a chest, one collarbone, one arm, one eye, one ear, and half a face. Wow. As soon as the news of Jarasandha's death was announced, all the citizens of Magadha began to cry, "Alas, alas!" While Lord Krishna and Arjuna embraced Bhimasena to congratulate him after 28 days of fighting. Although Jarasandha was killed, neither Krishna nor the two Pandava brothers made a claim to the throne. Their purpose in killing Jarasandha was to stop him from creating a disturbance to the proper discharge of world peace. A demon always creates disturbances, whereas a demigod always tries to keep peace in the world. There's a basic qualification. Just try to keep peace. Krishna likes that. And if you can't, if you have to, then you can use force for the sake of keeping peace.
But don't bifurcate anyone.
Unless you have to, for the sake of keeping peace. Otherwise, no. The mission of Lord Krishna is to protect the righteous and kill the demons who disturb a peaceful situation. Yeah, it's the paradox of tolerance. If you tolerate everything, eventually you have to tolerate that which is intolerable. Violence, injustice. So tolerance can only go so far. You actually have to have a certain amount of backbone. The Kshatriyas are that backbone. They don't put up with demoniac situations. Therefore, Lord Krishna immediately called for the son of Jarasandha, whose name was Sahadeva, and with due ritualistic ceremonies, the Lord asked him to occupy the seat of his father and reign over the kingdom peacefully. Lord Krishna is the master of the whole cosmic creation, and he wants everyone to live peacefully and execute Krishna consciousness. After installing Sahadeva on the throne, he released all the kings and princes who had been imprisoned unnecessarily by Jarasandha. Whew. All right.
Good question.
Now's the time.
I feel like this theme has come up a couple times in the Krishna book, where here's somebody that honors the Brahmanas. He's given in charity, he respects them, but he's still a demon. And so it's perplexing to me, how he'd have that really good quality. I mean, I guess maybe it's in the sense of okay, maybe he was doing it to build his ego, but can you just talk to that?
Yeah. Well, even a broken clock is right twice a day. I'm sure if we analyze the character of any demoniac person, you can find some good quality.
This seems this seems really this.
It is
really good.
Yeah, so that's
a subtle.
That's part of it. The other part of it, the reason why you're right, it is it's a particularly notable quality to be so subservient to the Brahmins, is that the universe actually operates under certain laws, whether you believe in it or not. There's a certain dharma, a certain order to things. For example, if you wish to be not just wealthy, but generationally wealthy, you're wealthy, your children are going to be wealthy, their descendants are going to be set up, you have to give. If you're a miser, no matter how much you earn and how much you have, you will not be able to keep it. Your family can't keep it. It'll go eventually. Why? Because that's the way the universe works. It's just the way it's set up. Even if you want to be completely set up in this world for maximum comfort and material happiness, you have to operate under certain principles, such as being honest, being following the dharma of civilized society, giving in charity. Those kinds of things actually ensure future success. If you're a cancer cell, just operating completely whimsically, was it Machiavelli said, "It is better to be feared than to be loved if you must choose between the two. But what people forget is the second thing he said is, but worst of all is to be hated. You know, if you're like a demon and you operate against the principles of society, you hurt yourself, right? As much as a cancer cell creates the death of the whole body. So even if you want to exploit this world, there's a way to do it effectively. So great exploiters have shown that they don't operate independently. They work with the system. They don't try to swim against the current of the universe. You know, Hiranyakashipu performed austerities. He because that's another thing. It's like, if you don't sacrifice your own short-term comfort, you don't get long-term comfort. That's the way the world is. If you don't wake up early like the athletes do, you won't be a great athlete. Or like the business people, you don't make a lot of money. If you don't get a good teacher, if you don't do your homework, go to school, have a good diet, there's certain things you have to do. You have to work. If you don't sacrifice in the short term, you won't get long-term satisfaction. So even the great all-time demons, which means people who are just in it for their own sense gratification, in Vedic times knew that to be a truly successful demon, to get the best magic powers, to have the highest sense gratification, the most concubines or whatever, you have to be austere. You have to perform sacrifice. You have to give in charity. Those kinds of things were not unknown. Only in Kali Yuga are we so backwards that it's like, oh, I'll just take it and it'll totally work out for me, you know? Meanwhile, you're shooting yourself in the foot because everyone hates you. Your lifespan is shortened. Your health is terrible. You have and whatever you have is gone. You know, what happened to Alexander's empire as soon as he died? It shattered into 7 pieces. He couldn't keep it for more than a generation. No dharma. So that's the other answer. All right, more reflections on that chapter.
I was thinking that it reminded me a lot of the battle Kurukshetra, where
Yeah.
Krishna's not going to be helping, but then
Personally involved, yeah. At the Battle of Kurukshetra, he wouldn't take sides. He wouldn't actually fight.
Let me just give you a hint. Hit him below the belt, or hey, split him in half.
Yeah.
He waited 28 days to see what was going to happen, see if it was going to, as opposed to saying this is the master plan to begin with. It's very interesting.
Yeah, in a little bit of detail on that particular thing in Kurukshetra, the war, which has yet to happen where we are right now. It hasn't happened yet. Because we see Arjuna, this is before the war, but Arjuna and Duryodhana are going to go to war with each other, right? And Krishna says, okay, I promise I will not personally take up a weapon. I won't fight for either side. Because this war is now inevitable. They've tried to make peace. They won't see eye to eye. There's going to be a war. And he said, one side can have my armies. One side can have my guidance. And Duryodhana, I think the way it worked out was that Arjuna got to choose first. And Arjuna said, I want your guidance. And Duryodhana was cackling inside him. So he's oh, this is exactly perfect. I can't believe that fool Arjuna turned down all those sweet, sweet armies for some guidance. But that meant he got Bhagavad Gita. He got Krishna's actual association. While the demon Duryodhana was just thinking oh, I got all this manpower and cavalry and weapons and bows and arrows. So yeah, there's that dichotomy of Krishna won't actually fight, but here he is because Bhima is actually his great devotee, and he's giving that most important, cornerstone instruction. The only way to defeat him, split him like a blade of grass, because he was stitched together by a witch. Who knew? Only Krishna, apparently. So if you got Krishna in your corner, you don't have to be the most powerful. You really don't. You just got to be devoted. He'll give you whatever else you need, which is a great relief. Any more reflections? I think we're going to get another chapter in. I really can feel it. Okay, cool. So let's do that. Chapter 73. Lord Krishna returns to the city of Hastinapura. The kings and princes released by Lord Krishna after the death of Jarasandha were rulers of different parts of the world. Jarasandha was so powerful in military strength that he had conquered all of these princes and kings, numbering 20,800. They were all incarcerated within a mountain cave. especially constructed as a fort. And for a long time, they were kept in that situation. When they were released by the grace of Lord Krishna, they all looked very unhappy. Their garments were niggardly, and their faces were almost dried up for want of proper bodily care. They were very weak due to hunger, and their faces had lost all beauty and luster. The king's long imprisonment had caused every part of their bodies to become slack and invalid. However, because in that miserable condition they had the opportunity to think about Lord Krishna, they immediately saw him now as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vishnu. They saw that the color of the transcendental body of Lord Krishna resembled the hue of a newly arrived cloud in the sky. He appeared before them nicely covered by yellow silken garments, with 4 hands like Vishnu, and carrying the different symbols of the club, the conch, the disc, and the lotus flower. His chest was marked with a golden line. That's the Srivatsa I mentioned earlier. And the nipples on his chest appeared like the whorls of lotus flowers. His eyes appeared to spread like the petals of a lotus, and his smiling face exhibited the symbol of eternal peace and prosperity. He wore glittering shark-shaped earrings, and his helmet was bedecked with valuable jewels. The Lord's necklace of pearls and the bangles and bracelets nicely situated on his body all shone with a transcendental beauty. The Kaustuba jewel hung on his chest glittered with great luster. And the Lord wore a beautiful flower garland. After so much distress, when the kings and princes saw Lord Krishna with his beautiful transcendental features, they looked upon him to their hearts' content, as if drinking nectar through their eyes, licking his body with their tongues, smelling the aroma of his body with their noses, and embracing him with their arms. Just by dint of their being in front of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, all reactions to their sinful activities were washed away. Therefore, without reservation, they surrendered themselves at the lotus feet of the Lord. It is stated in Bhagavad Gita that unless one is freed from all sinful reactions, one cannot fully surrender unto the lotus feet of the Lord. All the princes who saw Lord Krishna forgot all their past tribulations. With folded hands and great devotion, they offered prayers to Lord Krishna as follows. Dear Lord, O Supreme Personality of Godhead, Master of all demigods, you can immediately remove all your devotees' pangs because your devotees are fully surrendered unto you. O dear Lord Krishna, O eternal deity of transcendental bliss and knowledge, you are imperishable, and we offer our respectful obeisances unto your lotus feet. It is by your causeless mercy that we have been released from the imprisonment of Jarasandha. But now we pray that you release us from imprisonment within material existence, your illusory energy. Please stop our continuous cycle of birth and death. We now have sufficient experience of the miserable material life in which we are fully absorbed, and having tasted its bitterness, we have come to take shelter under your lotus feet. Therefore, please give us your protection. Dear Lord, O killer of the demon Madhu, we can now clearly see that Jarasandha was not at fault in the least. It is actually by your causeless mercy that we are bereft of our kingdoms. For we were very proud of calling ourselves rulers and kings. A ruler or king who becomes too much puffed up with false prestige and power gets no opportunity to understand the real constitutional position and eternal life. Under the influence of your illusory energy, such a foolish, so-called ruler or king becomes falsely proud of his position, just like a foolish person who considers a mirage in the desert a reservoir of water. Foolish persons think that their material possessions will give them protection. Engaged in sense gratification, they falsely accept this material world as a place of eternal enjoyment. O Lord, O Supreme Personality of Godhead, we must admit that, before this, we were puffed up with our material opulences. It was as if we were intoxicated. You see like an intoxicated person, they'll say crazy things. They have like a false sense of self-esteem. Like, it doesn't make any sense from like a sober point of view. So from the transcendental, like self-realized point of view, the false ego of a conditioned soul is like being intoxicated. It's like, wow, that's a wild idea that you're the center. That's crazy. Because we were all envious and wanted to conquer one another, we all engaged in fighting for supremacy, even at the cost of sacrificing the lives of many citizens. That's quite reminiscent of current age. This is the disease of political power. As soon as a king becomes rich in material opulences, he wants to dominate other nations by material aggression. Similarly, mercantile men want to monopolize a certain type of business and control other mercantile groups. Impelled by false prestige and infatuated by material opulences, human society, instead of striving for Krishna consciousness, creates havoc and disrupts peaceful living. Thus, men forget the real purpose of life, to attain the favor of Lord Vishnu, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The kings continued, O Lord, We were simply engaged in the abominable task of killing citizens and alluring them to be unnecessarily killed, just to satisfy our political whims. We did not consider that your lordship is always present before us in the form of cruel death. We were so foolish that we became the cause of death for others, forgetting our own impending death. But dear Lord, the force of the time element, which is your representative, is certainly insurmountable. No one can escape its influence. Therefore, we have received the reactions of our atrocious activities. We are now bereft of all opulences, and stand before you like street beggars. We consider our position your causeless, unalloyed mercy upon us, because now we can understand that we were falsely proud, and that our material opulences could be withdrawn from us within a second by your will. By your causeless mercy only, we are now able to think of your lotus feet. This is our greatest gain. Dear Lord, everyone knows that the body is a breeding ground of diseases. Now we are quite aged, and instead of being proud of our bodily strength, we are getting weaker day by day. We are no longer interested in sense gratification, or the false happiness derived through the material body. By your grace, we have now come to the conclusion that hankering after such material happiness is just like searching for water in a desert mirage. We are no longer interested in the results of our pious activities, such as performing great sacrifices to be elevated to the heavenly planets. We now understand that such elevation to a higher material standard may sound very relishable, but actually there cannot be any happiness within this material world. We pray for your lordship to favor us by instructing us how to engage in the transcendental loving service of your lotus feet, so that we may never forget our eternal relationship with your lordship. We do not want liberation from the entanglement of material existence. By your will, we may take birth in any species of life. It does not matter. We simply pray that we never forget your lotus feet under any circumstances. Dear Lord, we now surrender unto your lotus feet by offering our respectful obeisances unto you, because you are the Supreme Lord. The personality of Godhead. Krishna, the son of Vasudeva. You are the super soul in everyone's heart, and you are Lord Hari, who can take away all miserable conditions of material existence. Dear Lord, your name is Govinda. What's his name? Govinda. The reservoir of all pleasure, because one who is engaged in satisfying your senses satisfies their own senses automatically. Yeah, Prahlad said that. He said, just like if you decorate your face while you're looking at your reflection in the mirror, your reflection becomes decorated. Put on makeup or earrings or ornaments. On your actual face, your reflected face automatically gets ornamented. You don't have to try to serve that reflected face. You serve the source. Similarly, Prahlad says, by serving you, one becomes glorified, actually, by that same offering that actually nourishes them. Dear Lord, you are ever famous, for you can put an end to all the miseries of your devotees. Please, therefore, accept us as your surrendered servants. After hearing the prayers of the kings released from the prison of Jarasandha, Lord Krishna, who is always the protector of surrendered souls and the ocean of mercy for the devotees, replied to them as follows in his sweet transcendental voice, which was grave and full of meaning. My dear kings, he said, I bestow upon you my blessings. From this day forth, you will be attached to my devotional service without fail. Jai!
Jai.
It's pretty good. I give you this benediction as you've desired. You may know from me that I'm always sitting within your hearts, that's the super soul. And because you have now turned your faces toward me, I, as master of everyone, shall always give you good counsel, so that you may never forget me, and so that gradually you will come back home, back to Godhead. My dear kings, your decision to give up all conceptions of material enjoyment and turn instead toward my devotional service is factually the symptom of your good fortune. Henceforward, you will always be blessed with blissful life. I confirm that all you have spoken about me in your prayers is factual. It is a fact that the materially opulent position of one who is not fully Krishna conscious is the cause of his downfall and is becoming a victim of the illusory energy. In the past, there were many rebellious kings such as Haihaya, Nahusha, Vena, Ravana, and Narakasura. Some of them were demigods and some of them demons, but because of their false perception of their positions, they fell from their exalted posts, and thus they no longer remained kings of their respective kingdoms and were lost in the violence of abominable conditioned life. Every one of you must understand that anything material has its starting point: growth, maintenance, expansion, deterioration, and finally, disappearance. All material bodies are subject to these 6 conditions, and any relative acquisitions accumulated by this body are definitely subject to final destruction. Therefore, no one should be attached to perishable things. As long as one is within this material body, he should be very cautious in worldly dealings. The most perfect way of life in this material world is simply to be devoted to my transcendental loving service and to Hare Krishna, and to execute honestly the prescribed duties of one's particular position. Do that again. The most perfect way of life in this material world is simply to be devoted to my transcendental loving service and to execute honestly the prescribed duties of one's particular position. As far as you are concerned, you will all belong to Kshatriya families, therefore you should live honestly, according to the prescribed duties befitting the royal order, and make your citizens happy in all respects. Keep to the standard of Kshatriya life. Do not beget children out of sense gratification, but simply take charge of the welfare of the people in general. Everyone takes birth in this material world in continuation of their previous life, and thus they are subject to the stringent laws of nature, such as birth and death, distress and happiness, profit and loss. One should not be disturbed by duality, but should always be fixed in my devotional service, and thus remain balanced in mind and satisfied in all circumstances, considering all things to be given by me. Thus one can live a very happy and peaceful life, even within this material condition. In other words, one should actually be callous to the material body and its byproducts and should be unaffected by them. One should remain fully satisfied in the interests of the spirit soul and engaged in the service of the super soul. One should engage his mind only in thinking of me. One should simply become my devotee. One should simply worship me, and one should offer his respectful obeisances unto me alone. In this way, one can cross over this ocean of nescience very easily, and at the end, come back to me. In conclusion, your lives should constantly be engaged in my service. Man mana pavamad bhakto. Bhagavad Gita. He says that twice. The only verse in Bhagavad Gita that's, well, one of two verses that's basically repeated. 934 and 1865. After delivering his instructions to the kings and princes, Lord Krishna immediately arranged for their comfort and asked many servants and maidservants to take care of them. Lord Krishna requested Sahadev, the son of King Jarasandha, to supply all necessities to the kings and show them all respect and honor. In pursuance of the order of Lord Krishna, Sahadeva offered them all honor and presented them with ornaments, garments, garlands, and other paraphernalia. After taking their baths and dressing very nicely, the kings appeared happy and gentle. Then they were supplied nice food. Lord Krishna supplied everything for their comfort as befitting their royal positions. Since the kings were so mercifully treated by Lord Krishna, they felt great happiness, and their bright faces appeared just like the stars in the sky at the end of the rainy season. All nicely dressed and ornamented, their earrings glittering, they were then seated on chariots bedecked with gold and jewels and drawn by decorated horses. After seeing that each was taken care of, Lord Krishna, in a sweet voice, asked them to return to their respective kingdoms. By his liberal behavior, unparalleled in the history of the world, Lord Krishna released all the kings who had been in the clutches of Jarasandha. And the kings, being fully satisfied, began to chant his holy name, think of his holy form, and glorify his transcendental pastimes as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Thus engaged, they returned to their respective kingdoms. The citizens of their kingdoms were greatly pleased to see them return, and when they heard of the kind dealings of Lord Krishna, they were all very happy. The kings began to manage the affairs of their kingdoms in accordance with the instructions of Lord Krishna, and all those kings and their subjects passed their days very happily. This is a vivid example of a Krishna-conscious society. If the people of the world, taking into account their respective material qualities, divide the whole society into 4 orders for material progress and 4 orders for spiritual progress, centering these orders on Krishna and following the instructions of Krishna, as stated in the Bhagavad Gita, the entire human society will undoubtedly be happy. This is the lesson we have to take from this incident. After thus causing the annihilation of Jarasandha by Bhimasena, and after properly being honored by Sahadeva, the son of Jarasandha, Lord Krishna, accompanied by Bhimasena and Arjuna, returned to the city of Hastinapur. When they reached the precincts of Hastinapur, they blew their respective conch shells, and by hearing the sound vibrations and understanding who was arriving, everyone immediately became cheerful. But the enemies of Krishna, upon hearing their conch shells, were very sorry. The citizens of Indraprastha felt their hearts become joyful simply by hearing the vibration of Krishna's conch shell, because they could understand that Jarasandha had been killed. Now the performance of the Rajasuya sacrifice by King Yudhishthira was almost certain. Bhima, Arjuna, and Krishna arrived before King Yudhishthira and offered their respects to the king. King Yudhishthira attentively heard the narration of the killing of Jarasandha and the setting free of the kings. He had heard of the tactics adopted by Krishna to kill Jarasandha. The king was naturally affectionate toward Krishna, but after hearing the story, he became even more bound to him in love. Tears of ecstasy glided from his eyes, and he was so stunned that he was almost unable to speak. Shri Krishna book ki jai. We did it. 3 chapters. Okay. We have a few minutes for reflections, comments, questions. You're all like Yudhishthir. You're stunned. Stunned in ecstasy. Tears gliding.
I was going to say that it's really beautiful, the idea that, you know, so many demons encounter Krishna and instantly they would be liberated. I mean, in one fell swoop, he could have liberated all of these kings and been done with it, but he wanted them to go back as examples
Yeah.
of you know, good Krishna consciousness, so we can spread it to all the people in their kingdom, so that they can create a better world. It's really beautiful. Yeah.
That's the peace formula. You want the world to be a happy place. Populate it, beginning with yourself, with Krishna conscious persons who perform their own material duties honestly and in a mood of service to Krishna.
Yeah.
And the world naturally becomes better. Thank you. Any other reflections?
I was thinking, had they not been captured and lived in caves for however long and had to suffer, and that when they came out, that's what brought them
Yeah.
to Krishna, that they were willing then to, you know, that kind of changed everything for them. Had they stayed in their kingdoms and not had to suffer, they would never have, or maybe never have turned to follow Krishna.
They said that as much too, that they acknowledged, we consider actually this is all your mercy. And when did we say this last Tuesday? We said something like, the only thing worse than no misfortune, than misfortune is no misfortune.
No, you said this on Saturday night when we basically gave a class to my dad's friend.
Oh yeah, what did I say?
You said the only thing worse than adversity is no adversity.
Yeah. Like you don't want too much adversity, but if you have none, then you get to be like those kings before they were mercifully smacked into like waking up from their bewildered, intoxicated situation. You just kind of like wander around in a daze of false ideas. So having woken up from that, they actually said to Krishna, like, thank you. This whole thing was really good for us. We're grateful. That's a very mature perspective.
It's reminiscent, I think, of that phrase, like that Krishna likes you, he'll give you everything, and if Krishna loves you, he'll take it away, kind of.
Yeah. Thank you. Shakti.
I just have a very small comment, but like as I'm listening through all of the chapters, what's becoming clear to me is something that like my mother said to me like as a young girl, you know, like when you get sad and then things happen and then you're happy and you go happy and sad, and it's like, and I would say, I don't know why I have to have this sadness, why can't I just always be happy? And she would say, well, how do you know if you're happy if you don't know what sadness is? How do you know if something feels good, if something doesn't feel bad? Like it's sort of like these lessons that we learn, and I'm seeing that in like a lot of the chapters, in obviously more intricate ways, but basically like they maybe were, I don't know what they were thinking of Krishna, but it sounds like they weren't thinking what happened when they were released. They were like, wow, okay, yeah, this really is true, and this is something that sounds like we need to really take another look. And you know what I mean?
Yeah. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says the same thing. He says that the gift of Krishna consciousness, I'm paraphrasing, the gift of Krishna consciousness, he says, becomes more, it glitters more brightly on the backdrop of material existence. Just like a jeweler will demonstrate their diamonds against what? Black velvet. Because then it really pops. You can see it by contrast. So in this world, which is full of suffering and also temporary pleasure, in the context of that like exhausting birth and rebirth in that world, the gift of Krishna consciousness really makes all the sense in the world. As like, oh yeah, this is actually what I want to do with my eternal existence. I actually want this. This is really so worth it. Because then, by contrast, you're like, I know what that's like. As the king said, we have full taste of the bitterness of material life. Now we just want your lotus feet. Thank you. All right, we did it. Okay, thank you for the online crew. Thank you for the in-person crew. Thank you for the YouTube crew. Thank you for Srila Prabhupada and his Krishna book. So for this week, please read chapters 71, 2, and 3. And comment so many nice things in these pastimes, so many little, lessons for us.
Are we lighting candles?
And we're going to light candles right now. We're going to light candles for the Damodar Ashtakam and sing.
You mentioned how Diwali is also the day that.
Yeah, so Diwali was yesterday. We heard about that. Prabhupada referred to it as the Hindu New Year. One of the events that happened on Diwali was when the residents of Ayodhya, who had suffered terribly in Lord Ramachandra's absence, the great Dharmic king and personality of Godhead, he was exiled for 14 years. When he came back with Sita and Hanuman, they greeted him with lights everywhere. They lit candles and torches, and so these rows and rows of lights is honored with the name Deepavali or Diwali. And so it symbolizes the conquering of light over darkness and goodness over evil.
And what else happened on that day?
You tell me.
When Yashoda.
That's right.
Oh, you want me to actually say?
Sure.
You say.
Okay, well, the Acharyas explained that that's the day that actually the actual pastime of Krishna binding Krishna, Damodar binding, Mother Yashoda binding Krishna to the grinding mortar because he was being such a little rapscallion. The whole Damodar Lila happened on that actual day of the year. So it's also.
Was she prepping for Diwali? Is that why?
I don't know.
You don't know.
That's a good question. But
I just read that, Leela, and she was prepping for Diwali. That's why she
there
was
it is.
trying to make these wonderful sweets for Krishna
There it
with
is.
the milk boiling over.
Special Diwali sweets, because Ramachandra came before Krishna, so she knew about Diwali. All right.
Okay.
There it is. And we're going to offer Krishna a lamp because he really likes that. The Kartik Mahatmya says it's one of the best things you could do for him. Such a simple offering. If you don't have a lamp, offer one in your mind. It's totally legit. I'm going to sing the Damodar Ashtakam.
Will you mute yourself?
Yeah.
And I'm going to unmute now. And also mute your computer. Yeah. Haribo, Nakunjanagari. Hare Krishna, Martine, Haribo, Midori Gopi, who's joining us too. And Katie Mabel, Haribo, and Martine, Haribo. Okay, yeah, hit the lights.
So, do we have the link? Probably have the link, right?
Yeah, I can put it in again. I'll put the link in the chat too. It won't. The link to the Damodar Ashkam's in the chat too, in case you don't have it.
Thank you.
Shri Damodar Ashtakam ki jai,
Jai.
Shri Kartik Month ki jai, Shri
Jai.
Shoda Damodar ki jai.
Jai.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you all for chanting together in all of our homes, at all of our altars, with all of our hearts. Hari Bol, Hari Krishna, so wonderful to be here with you. And have a beautiful night. Happy Govardhan Puja Eve. Hari Bol.
Terrible.